Well, today the RBA decided to keep cash rates on hold at 4.35% in the final rate decision for the year. Meanwhile, Treasurer Jim Chalmers has suggested there could be another round of cost of living relief included in next year's budget should the economy soften. Joining me now, macro business chief economist Leith Van Onselen. Leith, welcome to the program again. Look, we're starting to see a difference in the Australian experience to overseas. We're seeing inflation fall faster overseas, an expectation that rates might actually start to fall overseas. Why is Australia not having the same success?
Look, it basically gets down to our services inflation has been a little bit stickier than overseas. But that said, our inflation pretty much across the globe, it's falling everywhere. It's just ours isn't quite coming down as quickly. And one of the major reasons for that is, and I say it every time I'm on here pretty much, the federal government's obviously running this record immigration program, and it's growing the population so quickly in Australia that's basically adding to this demand pressures across the economy. And that's not happening in most other countries. Most other countries, their populations aren't growing so quickly, so the demand's not growing as quickly. And that's basically, helping to keep Australia's inflation higher than it otherwise would be. And we're seeing that most notably in the rental market, obviously, where rents are going through the roof, and rents are actually the second biggest component of the CPI. So when rents rise, it puts upward pressure on inflation.
Look, we're seeing the Treasurer put forward this suggestion about having another cost of living relief package. In the past, he said that the government was loath to do that because of the inflationary impact that it could have. Are you concerned about this?
Well, it really depends how it's designed. So if you just obviously give dollars to households go out and spend it, and that'll put upward pressure on demand. But if you do other things, and you can actually use those subsidies to bring down prices. So, for example, if they cut the fuel excise, I'm not saying they should, that would lower inflation, or alternatively, childcare subsidies, energy rebates, rental rebates. Those things can actually bring down prices, at the margin, and that'll actually, reduce inflationary pressures. So it all depends on how it's designed.
Look, we are seeing inflation start to fall, as you mentioned, in Australia, not just globally. The recent figures, it's at 4.9%. But there are concerns that the RBA has expressed that we're still not going to get to that target band of 2 to 3% by the end of 2025. So do you think that Australians are looking at higher rates, higher inflation for a longer period?
Look, I said it last time, I actually think we're probably at the peak of the cash rate, purely because a whole lot of indicators are coming off. That said, I think we're going to have these high-ish interest rates for an extended period. And again, it gets back to these, the same forces. The federal government has basically got its foot on the accelerator, bringing in a whole bunch of consumers through immigration, record numbers, and that's sort of keeping the pedal on demand while the RBA is trying to slow demand with interest rates. So we've got basically the federal government and the RBA working at cross purposes, and that's obviously not helping the situation here in Australia.
No, it's so concerning. Are you willing to give a prediction for when we might start to see rates actually fall?
Oh, look, this is really a stab in the dark. Probably, not probably, maybe late next year. Once the economy really does start to soften, which I think it will.
Yeah.
But that being said, we could, we could have another 12 months roughly of these sort of highish rates, which is pretty abysmal, obviously, if you're a mortgage holder, and
indeed.
It's not great.
A long time still to come for this cost of living crisis. Leith Van Onselen, appreciate your time as always.